Oh, sorry.
That way the groups are consistent. There we go.
Are we good? Konbanwa!
Hi.
Hello! Welcome to Doll Magic Unleashed, exploring the allure of BJD and their influence in anime. I am Caitlin. This is our host, Jeanette. And we are here to share our love of ball jointed dolls with you, as well as a little bit of information about them and their cultural impact. So, why don't we go ahead and get started? This is our disclaimer. Neither Jeanette nor I are PowerPoint people. So this is the prettiest slide that we have. Please enjoy. Also, there will be lots of moments for audience participation and the chance to earn sugar. I have a lot of candy to give away, so please, when we ask for answers on quizzes, shout out. And we have a candy Sprite fairy here to help us pass it out.
It's not why I made this costume, but okay.
It works, just don't it. All right, I do need to put in a trigger warning, okay? While we do our best to make sure dolls are censored, if you know anything about BJDs, you know that they often come in their birthday suits. So, just in case that is something that is comfortable for you, this might be a good time to exit the room. Again, we try to make this as children-friendly as possible too, so I think everything is good. But also, if for any reason Uncanny Valley things make you uncomfortable, or dismembered parts make you uncomfortable, or random comments like I cut somebody's head up and pulled their eyeballs out, the door's right there, and I don't blame you. There are some really weird phrases. We had some conversation at the library and realized we were talking about bartering parts on eBay. Like arms and legs and stuff and feet. And we're like, no, I think we're in a private room. Anyways, okay, tangent, my apologies. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. This is a longer panel, we know, but we have lots to go over and we want to share. So we're gonna start off with an introduction to the addictive world of ball jointed dolls. Okay, what is a BJD? Just a heads up, this is our second time doing this panel. There's a lot of text on the first half, and then I got some critique. First time saying not so much text, so it's a little easier flowing to look at later on, I promise. But BJD stands for ball jointed doll, which is an articulated doll with rounded joints held in place by tension and elastic. Most ball jointed dolls are made today of polyurethane synthetic resins, though you can find BJDs made of metals and porcelain as well. There are other materials, but resin is the most common because it's the least expensive that actually holds its shape over time. Most BJDs are designed and manufactured in Japan, South Korea, and China, though there are a plethora of individual BJD artists and smaller companies around the world. They are considered art or collectibles. They are targeted at an adult audience and are often anatomically correct. They can range in size from an inch or two, like tiny, those are called micro BJDs, super cute, right? All the way to over 3 feet. Most are comparable in size to Barbies, Weller Wishers, and American Girl dolls, and we'll get into more about sizes in a few minutes. All right, so the first thing we need to go over is what is a BJD and what is not a BJD. Okay, a BJD has ball joints, and the advantage of a ball joint is it offers an awesome amount of mobility. The second is elastic. Elastic holds the parts together with tension, and they are quite tense. I was trying to change out my doll's hands yesterday to get here, and I'm like, I'm gonna break something. This is so tight. It is made out of resin or another rigid material, and it is a material that does not work under prolonged tension, and that's why modern BJDs are made with this. There are some companies that made older BJDs, correct me if I'm wrong, with more vinyl materials, but what you run into is that vinyl is a rather soft plastic, and that extensive amount of time under that much pressure just causes the joints to work. So not a BJD. Any doll that is made with hinge joints. They offer a range of mobility, but not usually quite as much as ball joints. Pins, okay? Many dolls, especially if you're thinking Monster High dolls, Volks dolls, Mitsu dolls, they have pin joints, which can also look like a ball because there is a ball on the pin, but there's no tension. There's no elastic holding together the pieces. It's made out of a light plastic or a vinyl, especially for mass-produced dolls. Way cheaper to do that than it is to do resin. Resin is a very, very finicky material, which is part of the reason that ball joint dolls get expensive. There's a lot of layers as to why they're expensive, but that's one of them. Whereas light plastics, vinyls, you can custom in a form, cheap, easy to throw out there. People don't feel bad when their 7-year-olds dismember them or do whatever they do with the dolls, right? So an example would be a Monster High doll. Barbies obviously are not BJDs. Pretty much if you can go to a toy store and buy it off the shelf, you're not going to be buying a BJD, and that is okay. We love those dolls too. They're just not what we're going over today. So one of the best questions we always get is, what about smart dolls? And Jeanette brought one of her smart dolls here to show us. Lovely, lovely. Smart dolls are highly customizable art dolls, but they use a pin and hinge joint system and are not technically ball jointed dolls. So and this sounds like a lot of nitpicking, and I feel like the more modern BJD community doesn't care as much about this. But like a lot of micro communities, there's a history of people being very like, we can only talk about ball jointed dolls within our ball jointed doll space. So I like to let people know, so when they go in, that they don't like feel embarrassed because somebody started showing them out for no good reason. So just so you know, they're not technically ball jointed dolls, but let's be honest, most BJD collectors love their smart dolls. Love their smart dolls. So doll-sized history of BJDs. While articulated dolls date back to 200 BC in Greece and Rome, the ball-jointed system was more or less invented in the late 19th century in Western Europe and became popular in Germany and France. By the way, this is according to Wikipedia. So as much stock as you put into Wikipedia, that's how much stock you can put into this mini history. Influenced by 1930s German artist Hans Dellmer's ball-jointed dolls, traditional Japanese doll artists began developing elaborate dolls as art pieces. In 1999, anime figurine and garage kick company Volks introduced the Super Dolphy. Modern Asian BJD was born. By the way, I don't know if I'm talking too fast or anything, but if you can catch any of these little tidbits of information and stick them back in your brain, there is a quiz time. And there's candy for quiz answers. Okay, how are BJDs most commonly made? I know, lots of text, I apologize. First, an artist will draw a detailed, size-accurate picture of the doll and different parts. This process takes a long time because they want to make them as perfect as possible. And usually using paper clay because it's lightweight, easy to work with, and inexpensive, they will painstakingly sculpt each individual piece to fit it together perfectly. This can take months, especially if the artist finds something that isn't working and then they have to start over. Next, the artist will use this paper clay doll to create a mold, and then test the casting themselves to make sure that when they cast it, those pieces work the way paper doll pieces worked. They may need to go back and tweak their paper doll more and create a new mold. Once the casting is satisfactory, they send it to a casting company so that the doll can be mass-produced, and the artist will open up the pre-order online. And this does look a little different when we're talking about some of the larger BJD companies. They do this process, but they'll do it all in-house. Whereas individual artists will do this on their own time in their own studios at home and then send them, typically overseas, to these larger companies to have them cast. Once the pre-order is complete, the casting company will cast the dolls in the requested colors. Each doll is custom made, keep this in mind. The dolls are then shipped back to the artist to be inspected. If the artist offers a full set, the head will be sent to the face of the artist to be painted. Once the head comes back, the doll will be assembled, packaged, and shipped to their new homes. So these are some of the cool features about BJDs. There is a doll for everyone. You can think of it, somebody's already working on it. And if they haven't, and you bring it up, they will be like, well, let me get to work on that. Okay? There really is a doll for everyone. BJDs are made to order. They are custom made for the customer. And this is really, I don't know, I feel it makes it really personal. When you're ordering a new doll, it really brings it home. It's like, this is my doll, it was made for me. Highly customizable. So and we'll get into some of these details in a few minutes here, but when you go to order your BJD, there are so many options you can pick for it. And even if the company doesn't offer it, and there are options for the full set. You can always go buy the parts individually and assemble them yourselves. They're highly posable. These are not some of the more extreme poses because sometimes setting up quickly doesn't allow you to do extreme poses with your dolls, but the ball joint allows you to get them in all sorts of cool positions for photographing and things like that. They can retain value or even appreciate in value. So, for instance, one of my favorites, Dream a Doll. Well, sorry, we talk about this because she has a Dream a Doll and I don't have a Dream a Doll, but Dream a Doll went out of business quite a few years ago, but their dolls were so popular that they've retained their value and appreciated in the doll community. People seek after these dolls and will spend thousands of dollars to buy these dolls. That being said, not all dolls do that, so when you go to buy one, don't anticipate it will. It's not common for most dolls, but especially sought-after dolls or particular companies. For instance, I have a Fairy Lips doll, and that particular head sculpt went out of print, and so now that doll is collectible because that particular brand is collectible. But a lot of the other ones are not. But they can at least retain their value usually to some extent. There's an awesome community around it. We like to think we're awesome. Yes. Very inclusive, especially in the later years. It's gotten a lot more inclusive. And everybody's open to new ideas. There's lots of sharing of like information and like people looking for help. Like, hey, how do I get my doll this color? Ask Jeanette. She's an expert in dyeing dolls. Really unusual and special skill that is sought after in the BJD community. Lots of sewing, communicating, you know, how to make your own dolls. So there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of encouragement in the community. It is a very versatile artistic outlet. So if you love cosplay, this is cosplay and mini. I love my dolls because I love cosplay and I don't have the time really that I want to invest in a great outfit for myself, but I can cut that scale down to 3 or 4 hours for one of my dolls and they can look really cute. They are loads of fun. Of course, that's subjective. But we find they're a lot of fun. Okay, so there are some downsides to BJDs. They tend to be expensive. And we will talk about the exceptions to the rule. Absolutely, there are great ways to get started, but the typical doll is not easily accessible. They can be limited edition, and if you find that dream doll, you're like, I want that doll, you kind of have to act on it or you might not get it. Some companies make like limited releases, so they'll be like, there's only going to be 600 of the sets released all over the world, and they'll sell out within minutes. There are some companies, Volks, I don't know if they still do this. Do you remember when they did the lottery system?
They still do.
They still do? Okay, there you go. So some of you guys know, still do the lottery system. I don't want to mess with that. They can take a really long time to come. My first mistake was the first BJD I bought was from Doll Sheet. I didn't know anything about Doll Sheet and their reputation. It took me 2 years to get my doll. And by the time she came, I didn't want her anymore. The upside, retained value. I actually got to sell her for more than what I paid for her because nobody wants to wait that 2-year wait, but they want the dolls. So that's one of those times. It's like, no, okay, she kind of appreciated it in some regard. I still sold her for less than what she was selling for on the website, but they can take a really long time to come. They're made of resin. Resins, and a lot of times in a lot of materials, red pigment breaks down when it's exposed to UV light. And so a lot of BJDs will develop over time. And there are some colors, I think, that are more resistant to it. Do you know which colors?
I'm not sure offhand, but I know that more browns, they'll turn green.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And there are some, they've gotten better about it. So some doll companies have better casting than others. Some skin tones handle it better than others. But there are other ways. Sanding the doll can help a little bit with that. Dyeing the doll can help with that. That can be a really good option. So there are things you can do with it, but you kind of have to remember that even though some of them appreciate with time, a lot of them don't just because they will yellow. It can, depending on the doll you buy, it can be hard to find accessories. You will see there are a number of dolls up here that have shoes that don't fit or no shoes because
shoes are the hardest accessories. At least
mine too. And you'll find like it's an ongoing joke in the forums and stuff. It's like I don't have any shoes for my dolls, and they can be highly addictive. pretty much like any hobby, right? Anytime you start collecting something, there just seems to be more of them in your house now. Okay, so another moment to stop and put on our retaining hats because we do have quiz time coming up. BJD terms to know. These are really useful if you're going into it. Sizing terms can be one of the trickiest things to figure out when you're just starting out. But if you don't know what size you're buying, you're going to get a doll and you're going to be like, that's not what I thought I ordered. The uncle size. This is not the largest size of doll, but it's one of the largest size of doll. That's 70 centimeters. That's a big doll. They're like that.
Okay.
Yay! He's a tall boy. I don't choose fellas. 70 centimeters, an uncle size. They are really, really popular. They're actually one of the easiest dolls to find clothes for. At least they seem to me. I mean,
Clothes, yes. Shoes, no.
Okay. No. The next size down is the SD, the 1/3 size. And they're 60 centimeters average. This is the average height. And this is our purple-haired lovely lady, who's an SD. They are probably the easiest. The easiest to find shoes for, the easiest to find anything for. They are kind of the standard size when you go to BJDs. The next is the MSD, the 45-ish inch range, 1/4. Those are probably most of the ones up here are MSDs. I've limited myself to MSD and smaller just because of size. I just don't feel like I've got that much room in my house for anything bigger than that. So they are, it's not so hard to find clothes, it is hard to find shoes for that size. Then there's the YOSDs and, oh, you see rainbows. Yes, the smaller ones. And they can come in a range of, this sounds weird, they come in a range of proportions. But typically the YOSD, this doll that you actually see here on the screen, she's an IU doll, and she's a YOSD. So they're supposed to look more like children. And so their proportions are a lot more childlike.
Although some of them are, they do make the more mature looking.
Yes, and we have two of those down
We
here.
have those as well.
Yeah. And those are great because they're actually the same size as Barbies
Yes.
and fashion dolls. And I just love being able to go into Target and like, okay, here's the latest little fashions for my girl.
It's all my little ones, those are Barbie.
Yeah. Way cheaper too, I'll tell you why, as far as clothing goes. Okay, authenticity terms to know. These are very important when you go to buy your dolls, okay? Legit. A legit doll is a doll that was made by the company, and it's not a recast, which is the next one. A recast is not an original doll made by the company. This is made by somebody else who wants you to think you're buying the real doll by the company. We'll go into that in a second. The COA, the Certificate of Authenticity. This tells you that this is a real doll that came from a real company. Inside it has a serial number and all that jazz. And that's something they started, some of the much older dolls don't have those because they didn't need that until the recast company started coming along. And then they said, we do need to make sure people know they spent $300 on the doll. We want everyone to know it's a real doll by a real artist. Okay, so some general doll terms. Seam lines, this is when they mold the doll. There's sometimes a seam along where that mold would have met. Resin color or special skin. So when you go to purchase your doll, they'll ask you what color resin do you want, what color do you want the skin to be. And that is a whole thing. We don't get into that one. A hybrid doll. This is when you take two different dolls and meld them together to make a new one. And there are a couple of hybrids up here. These parts are very interchangeable. It is super easy to pop a head off of one doll and stick it on another. And that just opens up your options for customizing so much more. Ooh, that went fast. Fantasy or special parts. You'll see I've got two fantasy dolls down here. But they come with, my little centaur doll down here has little wings. Those are considered special parts or fantasy parts. And a lot of different dolls, you can buy the human version or the fantasy version, and they'll give options for that too. The face-up. So we'll get in a little bit into face-ups. We'll be covering more of that. The face-up is the actual paint on the doll's face. Typically, when you go to buy a doll, you can get it with the face or without the face. And if it comes without a face, that means there's literally no eyebrows. There's usually a set of eyeballs. It's a blank face. It looks really disturbing on your first doll. The full set. The full set is when you order the doll that comes with the face, the wig, the eyes, and all of the accessories. So you're buying a whole doll. And I have a full set doll up there. Do you have this? Okay, I'll point out my full set doll up there. Actually, if you can see the striped jacket doll here with the yellow wig, she's a full set. So when I purchased her, I liked the whole ensemble. The way they portrayed it, I was like, just give me the whole doll. I paid a lot more money for that, but I also didn't have to go find a wig, or shoes, clothes. She was ready to go right from the get-go. Okay, grade A, B, and C. This is more of a company by company thing, but sometimes they will cast your dolls. Again, resin's a finicky material. And so if they get a doll that comes back and it's got air bubbles or there's some swirling in the pigment, they may call that a grade B or a grade C doll, and you can often get a discount on that. So these are some quick community terms. DOA, Den of Angels. Den of Angels is the most long-standing international community for ball-jointed dolls. This is when I went back and said, I was talking like, I want you guys to know the difference between a ball-jointed doll and all the other ones. This is why. Den of Angels is a stickler. You can only talk about ball-jointed dolls. And when I first started out, I spent a lot of money on a Volks doll. I didn't know it wasn't a ball-jointed doll because I thought it came from Volks. Volks is the original company. That's where ball-jointed dolls come from, right? I almost got kicked off the forums because I posted a picture of her and they said, that ain't BJD. So, again, the community as a whole is nicer, but there are pockets of this. And DOA still there's reasons why it carries a lot of weight still in the BJD community, but they are very, in some regards, elitist about some of those things. The dealer. So the dealer is somebody who has a bunch of companies that come to them and then they sell BJDs to you. And oftentimes these can be based anywhere in the world. One of my favorite ones is based in China, but you can find dealers based in the US with great reputations. And they will go to these other companies all over the world and buy the doll, essentially buy the doll for you and ship it to you. Direct, that's when instead of going through the dealer, you go straight to the company and buy from them. A lot of companies will let you do this. They only work with dealers. But there are some companies like Fairyland and Nickel House that allow you to buy straight from them. Shelling. So shelling is the art of getting a blank doll and then making it into your favorite character. Not just any cute outfit or anything like that, but say, I want Link. I want a Link BJD because that's the ultimate action figure. It's gonna be so cool. He's gonna be awesome. And you're like, I'm gonna make him. And so that's called shelling. All right. And quiz time, round one. Everybody excited for candy? All right, go ahead, chat out. I need my parents. What's up? Okay, say loud. Throw it.
Does anyone mind throwing?
No. All right, here we go.
The projector blind.
Don't touch it all.
Yeah, we do have more. These are important. I don't know how long you're sitting in the grocery store. That's 2 days ago.
It's candy. It has probably a bunch of stuff in it.
But I heard it before I even got to say it. Let me read the question. Which company started the modern BJD? More candy. Okay. I have to pour that. They're not as big. If you didn't get candy, let me know. Yes, if you didn't get candy.
Oh, I got one.
But if I will say this, if we run out of the first pack of candy, we'll just have to take 2 hours. Great. So cool. And then the modern BJD. Okay, this isn't on here, but you know the birth baking before BJD. It's not on here, but you're going to say birth baking before BJD.
Say it one more time.
What was Volks making before BJDs? Anime figurines, yes. And garage kits. Yeah. Okay, what are the 3 main sizes of BJD? We're almost out of candy.
USD. Right.
That was good, actually.
Very good.
You want me to throw it again?
Sure. Okay, let's do this one first. Okay. Oh, okay. What are BJDs usually made out of? Woo, candy! I want you guys to go out there and tell everyone, this is the best panel you came to. They are from random locations.
These are
Can you get the other side so I can? Yeah.
These are really good.
And left hand roll.
They're so good.
Really good.
I don't.
That was a bad throw.
Everybody else.
Okay, there will be more candidates, but we'll more out candidates. What makes the BJD different from other dogs? Ball joints. That's very good. Ball joint system. Bonus question. Are Opinza dolls BJD?
No.
Woo! You guys win. Woo! They use a pin system. All right, you ready, man? All right.
So now, you're ready to buy your BJD. You have to think of several things. But first, you have to think about how much do I want to spend on this dog? What do I want my dog to look like? What am I going for? What aesthetic am I looking for? You have to think about what size you want. Do you want the smaller? Do you want the mid-size? Or do you want the larger dog? Next is how long do you want to wait? Me personally, when I started getting into this, me personally, period, I don't like to wait very long. So you have to think of if it's something that you want right now or if it's something you're willing to wait a couple of weeks or even months and in some cases years for. And then where will you keep them? You have to have space for them because they can take up space really quick.
It's a big conversation with the BJD community. Where are these $2?
Yes. And then you have to think about, ooh, do I want a dog that I'm going to put my own touch on? Am I going to customize them? Or is it one that I want is fully done and I just want to put it out the box and bam, I have my dog. You have to think about that as well. And also about the accessories that you want them to have as well. And then lastly, you want to think about, am I going to get it directly from the company, such as, we've been talking about folks, or do I want to go through a dealer? Something like an Alice collection or a Denver doll, which we'll talk about shortly. Yeah. So what will you get? Like she spoke of with the full set, you will get the full kit and caboodle. You get the eyes, the hair, the face will be made of, the clothes, any special parts or accessories and shoes. If you get a blank doll, all you will get is the blank doll. No face. Some companies, most companies will send them with eyes, but you'll just basically get a naked body with some eyes. And it's up to you to figure out how you want that dog to look. So let's talk about price. And yes, please don't get sticker shock and run out the road. I think since these are unique and hand carved and custom casted, these can be very pricey. So a good 1/3, a blank one, you can get between, usually, like I said, there are some places where you can get these a little cheaper, but usually it's gonna be around $400 up to maybe $550. Full set, the sky's the limit with that, depending on what kind of scope you get, with all the accessories you get with it. And
Also, you have to buy a ticket to get those ones.
yes. So with the 1/4 of the MSD, they usually start at like around $200 and up. And full set start around $380, and sky can be the limit with that, depending on what you get. And with the OSDs, a blank one, although we have 200, there are some companies that you can get a blank one for $100. We'll speak on where you can get that from. As far as with the full set, they start around $350 and go up from there. So now you want to buy your dog. You go on to AliExpress and you're like, oh my gosh, I see that 1/3 dog. It's only $100. Oh my gosh. Do I want that dog? Most likely it's a recast. So there are a lot of recasters out there, not just on AliExpress, but a lot of other places. So, and it's not really benefiting the artist when you buy a recast. It's just like if you go and you want to buy a Coach purse. If you go to the store and there's a Coach purse for $20, you know that's not a real Coach purse, and you know that may not get the same quality as you would if you paid the money for it. So with that being said, a lot of times they're lower quality. Sometimes they be trying to compete with higher quality, but most of the time it's lower quality, and you can really tell the difference. Because I will give you an example. Someone had given me a doll head to dye, and it was a recast doll head. Most of the time when I dye dolls, I can dip them in the water, and they'll dye just fine. That doll started melting. So we definitely can take, save the money and invest in a legit doll that will be the best one. Yeah. So how can I get my dream doll? How can I save for it? There are several ways you can get your dream doll. You can buy secondhand. I'm a good person who likes to buy. The majority of my dolls are secondhand because I feel like I like to rescue dolls and give them life again. So most of mine are secondhand. And you can really sometimes find good gems in secondhand dolls that you have to spend a lot of money on if you bought them directly from the company. Next is if you buy during sales. I know Alice Collection, they have sales on different companies like every month.
Yeah, it seems like every month.
It seems like every month it's a different sale. So you can definitely look for sales. You can order through the dealer. Sometimes they'll give you a deal if you order to them, especially on shipping. A lot of sellers offer layaway. Layaway can be your best friend because it allows you to see the doll you want, get it, put money on it, and know it's once you keep it in your layaway, it's going to be there for you. And there are some people who 3D print dolls now. There are a lot of artists, because I know a few artists who actually 3D print their own dolls. And you can save with that as well. And to conclude with that one, you can always choose a smaller doll. Because of course, the smaller the doll, the less it's going to cost. So especially, most of the time, especially starting out.
I will say Chinese New Year, almost all of the companies have a really good sale. I'm pretty sure that most of my Mayu dolls and my Family Age dolls, I got 25% off, which for BJD is huge. 25% off during New Year's. Also keep in mind, buying secondhand is not always cheaper, it's just usually cheaper. Usually. If the doll is out of print and you can't get it anymore, it might be more expensive, but usually it's cheaper. And 3D printed artist dolls are not always cheaper either. Especially if you go, there are a lot of artists on Etsy. They are not always cheaper, but it's still a fair price if you consider this is an artist-made doll. They're paying for the cost of resin printing, and if you do cosplay, you might have dabbled in that, know how expensive it can get to be.
So here are a few of the well-known companies. Of course, these are the more higher tier companies. There are Gold's, Ring Doll, and Fairyland. Because I know my daughter's Holy Grail doll is a Fairyland doll. So those can be on the higher end.
I didn't bring my Fairyland doll because she is on the higher end.
So these middle of the road companies, there are Mighty Dolls, which this one, where's your
Or Marmalade right there.
And
Technically,
this one.
Marinade's head is a
Those are Mighty Dolls. So then we have Charm Doll and Soul Doll, which they're basically all in that same category of middle of the road dolls. And then there are the starter doll companies, such as Resin Soul, Angel of Dream, and Dollies. This baby here is a Resin Soul. She's a Resin Soul white doll. So basically, when you get a doll, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have
minus the whisper.
It's going to have nothing on the face. It's just going to have a blank face, and you'll have to figure out what you're going to see in next.
And there are way more companies than this. This is like just a quick snippet of companies to look at. Oh, I'm talking about Blind Box. Okay, so here's a great thing that has happened in the last year to 2 years. And it is Blind Box BJDs. Whoever thought those would be married, but let's be honest. When they figured out gotcha was going to be huge, they said nothing is safe anymore. So Blind Box BJDs are a big thing. The pros, you can get Blind Box BJD, a legit BJD, $15 to $50, depending on what you want. It's a blind box, but hey, go to AliExpress and they've opened them up for you. Sorry. They come in a full set with additional parts. So you'll see 2 blind box dolls up here. My sweet little tea set, green, whatever, centaur. And then there's a tiny, oh, she lost her horn. Her horn pops off. No one does that. My little ram down there. And they're both blind box dolls. I love them. They come with additional parts, like extra hands and stuff. You're not paying extra for that. It's just part of the thing. They fit most Ozitsu 11 and the Nendoroid doll clothes. So if you already collect those or have those on hand, they fit. They also fit Kelly clothes. So if you're real desperate, you're at Dollar Tree, they got some clothes there for knockoff brand Kelly dolls. Yeah, take them home, jazz them up, you got something for us.
And these are the only dolls that are safe to buy on Amazon and AliExpress.
Yes. One of the cool things is you're unlikely to run into a recast right now. There's no point in recasting a $15 doll. It probably costs someone to do that than to just make it in the first place. And the options for blind box BJDs are exploding. There are a ton of them out there right now. Yes.
I just wanted to say that if anyone is seeing this and wants to take a foray into getting a small BJD to see if you like it, you can get really genuinely good deals for these on KikaGoods.com. Yeah, just for anyone
They've
that
got a big sale going on right now. They're
yes.
I think they're not American based. They're Chinese based.
Yes.
But they're not.
Their shipping is very fast and they're very professional.
Yeah. And if you're really impatient, you can get them on Amazon Prime. Cons, they're not quite as customizable. So it's interesting. I can later, if we've got a minute, I can take one apart for you so you can kind of see how they're put together. They can fit within other dolls of their genre, but there's not as many wig options. There's a lot of clothes options, but not as much that you can do. You can shop around with other dolls that are related to them, but it's not quite as customizable as a regular BJD. Quality is hit or miss. Her horn doesn't stay on. It doesn't fit quite right, even though it came with her. I have another centaur doll, and a friend has a bunch of these centaur dolls, and not all of the tails fit. They have one of the BJD terms that I forgot to put in there is ticky, and that's when a doll's legs and arms just do weird things. You can't get them to sit straight. They're very kicky. So getting them to sit in a good pose can be a challenge. There's not a lot of size options. They only come in tiny right now, although I have seen a couple that are a little bigger. I get the feeling that as this keeps continuing to grow, we'll see more size options in the future. Primarily fantasy style dolls. If that's not your jam, there's not a lot of options outside of that. There are some, but typically it's either fantasy or cute schoolgirl and nothing in between.
So now you're interested, where do you buy them? So here are a few companies you can buy from. Alice Collection, that's a very good company. I've bought dolls from them a number of times, and they have the best. They have a layaway. They offer, if you get over a certain amount, they offer free shipping, and they're always having a sale on some country. Sometime in that month, you're going to see a discount on one or more companies on there. Then there is Denver Doll Emporium. They're another one who definitely offers layaway, and they're starting to grow their doll library and companies that they work with now as well. There's also BJD Divas. They have a number of different companies that you can order from them as well. And then there's New Clover's. New Clover's Sing.
I've used them for most of my dolls actually, and they do Taobao services. So if you go on Taobao, you're like, I want this thing, but I don't know how to order this. You can contact Christina at New Clover's Sing, and she'll help you out. I will say they've downsized their inventory by at least half, if not more. So I'm not sure if there's something going on there, but I really liked working with her.
And then there's Gold Station and KikaGoods as mentioned as well. So those are a couple of options as well. So now that you're interested, where to buy pre-loved? Den of Angels has a marketplace there. eBay has a marketplace as well, but you have to be careful because there are a lot of China recast companies on there. So if you buy from a place like eBay, you have to be about asking and getting proof of COA or whatever they can provide you that shows that that doll is legit.
And get pictures of the actual doll. If it's company pictures, it's probably a repass. Also, if it says new, that's typically a flag, because you should be buying a used roll from eBay.
Yes. So, and like I said, these are a couple of the places that you have to be aware of buying places, or where you buy, like I said, eBay, Etsy, Mercari, those places, you definitely have to make sure you get the information from the people up front. You're buying a good deal there, but you have to practice your due diligence. And then AliExpress, like I said, with Temu or Wish, Walmart. I don't know who buys BJD from Walmart. I'm just going to shake my head.
That's your own tool.
Right.
Wow.
And then there's BJD Shop, and then there's China BJD Cash Shop. I see a lot of people thinking that China BJD is legit, and it is not.
No. Ready for more candy? Okay, round 2. There's not as much of this. If you make it to round 3, it's more of this. All right. We got soda candy. Yay! Go ahead. All right. Who's ready? Woo! Is it cheaper to buy a full set? No. Asterisk. I'll mention in a minute. I found. Okay.
Okay, but if there's less candy, I just pass it around.
Oh, we can do that. Yeah. Everyone's delivered? Yeah. Okay. You guys make sure you share with everybody. We're all mostly on the same page. I found a great deal on a high-end doll on AliExpress. Should I buy it? No. I can't tell you what to do.
Not recommended.
Probably not. Not if your wisest choice is made. But I can't tell you. What time of year is it best to shop for BJDs? Yay! All right. What time of year is best to shop for pre-loved BJDs? Oh, time of year. Maybe it's right before taxes. Taxes in. What does COA stand for? Woo! What is Shelly?
Creating a character and making an adult.
Woo! You guys got it too. Yes, outfitting a doll based on a character. Bonus. Name one BJD company. Oh. Someone know? Anyone know other those two?
Resin Soul.
Resin Soul. Who?
Minifee?
Minifee is a fairyland. That is their 1/4 size BJD. You know what's funny? I don't know that much compared to other BJD people. I'm like presenting, and I'm like listening to these other people online. Like, you could show a random picture from the internet, and they're like, "That doll was from 1975." 1992, made by this company that's been out of business for the past 50 years. It's crazy what they do. Sorry, we're still playing games. Any yes.
I just want to say that one of my favorite companies that needs more love is With Doll. It's a Korean company.
I've heard of that.
And their dolls are gorgeous, and they have beautiful 1/8 size dolls, which are smaller than USD, and are beautifully made, great quality.
Are they like what style is the 1/8?
Their 1/8 is like I don't know. It's I wouldn't say it's anime style.
Okay.
It's maybe just like a youth style.
Okay.
And you can buy them secondhand too. I've gotten ones with a face up, sometimes clothes and things, $200.
Okay.
And
that's not bad.
yeah, it's really a great price. And their USDs are quite pretty too.
Okay. I know I've heard of them before. I don't know that I've ever owned it and said, I'm going to look into them yet.
Yeah. And I would just say as a recommendation for everybody, when I first started in the hobby over 10 years ago, I thought the only company you could buy from was Bolts. This was that. There are so many companies, and just because if it's a popular company, that doesn't mean that its quality is going to be better. In fact, sometimes, arguably, some of these companies have worse quality because they'll let other things like bubbling and things get through or seams.
Yeah.
So don't be turned off by the lower price point on some companies. I had a resin doll way back. It was a gorgeous doll, and so just really shop around and don't think that because a name is popular, it's going to be a better doll.
Right.
That's usually sometimes not the case.
And I've heard that a lot about Fairyland. Like, I've heard a lot of people, they'll splurge buy a Fairyland doll, and they're like surprised that their other dolls are just as good, if not better quality. I don't know. My Fairyland was my second doll, so I didn't have a lot of comparison. Well, third doll to arrive. Didn't have a lot to compare her with. But I do have to say, of all of my doll bodies, I think my doll family H that I got most recently might be my best doll body. So yeah, don't, just because it's a big company, you're absolutely right. They might feel like they can get away with less quality simply because they're popular.
Yeah, and one other thing too, like most of my dolls are actually Chinese and Korean. So when I started, I thought Japanese companies, all of them are really good. So yeah, it just depends on what your preference is.
And I will say, like, there are a lot more Korean and Chinese companies, period, now. Like, I mean, there's obviously still, there's, who doesn't know Noah? You know what else? Alchemy Lab. Like, they're a Japanese company. I love their dolls. And they're really cool because they will offer the, like, grade A, grade B, grade C. So if you're like, I don't care that there's bubbles in the back of the head of this doll because I'm going to be covering it with a wig, you can buy it for a little less. Then there's Volks. Do you know of any other Japanese companies? No. Those are the only two. I mean, Volks carries so much weight, nobody thinks twice about it. And it's still very popular in Japan. But definitely Korea and China have just run with us in a good way. All right, we're at AnimeCon. This had to come up, right? Did they ask us to put more anime stuff in? Is that why we did this?
Because it's like a lot of people will come and like, do dolls have to do it?
Let's just, we got to start right here. Harkening back to the history, our tiny, brief, Wikipedia history, right? The modern BJD system originated more or less in Japan. Like, sure, it was designed by European artists, but it got to Japan, and they're what made it what we have access to today. Okay, so it's always been heavily influenced by Japanese aesthetics, particularly those related to illustration and animation. BJDs have given back to the anime community too. These BJD-inspired aesthetics and character designs contributes to the visual diversity of the anime and manga. These designs resonate with audiences who appreciate the unique and enchanting qualities of BJDs. They allow for characters to stand out, capture emotions, and create memorable experiences, making a character design a captivating aspect of anime that owes much to the enchanting BJDs. Are you doing this section or am I doing this section? Okay. I'm sorry. Do you want to do this one? Are you sure? Okay. All right. Tap in if you want it. Because a lot of this is yours. Okay, a closer look at BJD aesthetics, okay? When we look at, and we're talking about this because we are going to be talking about anime that have BJD themes or things like that. And so I think it's important to take a second and look at what are typical aesthetics when we think a ball-jointed doll, right? So first, like beauty, okay? And that is like where our brains tend to go immediately, but I do want to point out that like ball-jointed dolls and skin texture and color is very diverse. So even though that is where we tend to go when we think porcelain dolls, a lot of times we still think BJDs and porcelain dolls are related, and they're kind of not really. I don't want it to feel limiting, if that makes any sense. Large expressive eyes, hands down, very anime, right? Delicate and articulate poses. They're known for being very, very graceful, I feel like, just because you can do so much with them. Unique hairstyles and fashion. We definitely have a mental idea of it's a doll. It's going to have a very specific fashion, set often. Not always, but often. And again, we talk about how, actually, are any of our BJDs wearing something like this? No. Androgynous appeal, they appeal to everybody. Like, completely, everybody loves it, right?
A little bit too happy.
Mysterious and timeless quality. They do kind of have this, like, maybe touching on that uncanny valley a little bit, right? There's like this aspect when we think about dolls. It's like, I want to know you, but I literally cannot get to know you because there's nothing in there. So there's that mystery to it, right? As if they know something that they can't talk about. And timeless, right? We tend to think of characters preserved, like almost like, you know, if we think of dolls, if we think about Japanese dolls specifically, we think of older dolls in kimono, right? And some of those more traditional styles. If we think of dolls from a Western perspective, we're thinking more like Victorian or Edwardian aesthetics. Typically, that's what pops into our head. I mean, that being said, I could say doll and you think Barbie, and I could blame you. Again, when we talk about anime and dolls, we need to talk about storytelling devices. So dolls are, like with any kind of storytelling, you bring in a thing, it's going to come with specific storytelling devices attached to it. Sorry, this is a new day, brain is melting a little bit, so I apologize, right? But when we talk about dolls, we're talking about innocence and maturity. You know, this kind of contrast of like a childlike thing. And how it's preserved in a state and is not necessarily always preserved in, like doesn't have the ability to mature. Powerlessness and autonomy. Dolls can't move unless animated. How much autonomy do they have? Perception and reality. So we perceive a doll. It is a thing we have created. It's not how children, like a lot of times we create dolls and child images, right? That's not how children behave or look, but we've created this perception and we want to project onto it. Childhood and aging, I've already addressed that. Vessels and spirits. A lot of times, especially when you get into horror aspects, you have a lot of dolls that like, it has no spirit, but then it does. Now it's animated, now it has some amount of autonomy. How much can I impose over that? Like, there's a lot of interesting discussions that come into play in media when we bring in that aspect of dolls. Perfection versus deterioration. Let's be honest, you have a beautiful doll that never ages, never changes, never gets wrinkly, never gets age spots or whatever, right? Or you can go with the doll that has the broken face or the disintegrating limbs and things like that. That just keeps getting creepier and creepier in our minds, right? I feel like just because of where we're going to go with anime, we have to address the overlap briefly. I realize this is a panel in and of itself. But there's such an overlap between dolls and androids and their themes, okay? Inhuman humanoids, okay? So we definitely recognize the human-like features that they have. Inorganic bodies, mechanical, those are actually technically a mechanical body, especially ball jointed dolls are a mechanical style body. We could go back into the history of the automaton and early dolls and see how they compare. Like I said, this is a whole panel I discovered while I was doing this. Those are considered soulless, so that's a reoccurring theme in media when we deal with dolls or with androids. They are frequently depicted as property, property of the government. If it's an android, that's a frequent theme, right? Or dolls as property of a child or a person. Both reside in the uncanny valley. That moment of are you human or not, and suddenly I'm really uncomfortable with you. Both challenge our perceptions of humanity and what it is to be a human being. Guess that anime! You guys ready for another round of games?
Yeah.
Woo! You guys made it! We're almost done, I promise. Oh, yeah. We do plan on having a question and answer session. We do want you guys to come up later and take a look at the girls and guys. I think we only have one guy today. But come up to see the girls and guys. We ask that you don't touch when we get to that area. These are, as we've said, not cheap. But we do want you to, be able to get a good idea of what they look like and the sizes and stuff and appreciate that. Okay, back to guess that anime. You guys ready? Rosamund. There we go, Rosamund.
All right, raise your hands because there's fewer of these.
Okay, does someone else say it? Someone else have it?
I had it.
Oh.
I blame this anime for even being in the hobby.
I think a lot of people blame this anime for making this hobby. Did you want to say Okay, I'm sorry. Rosa made it. Okay, author, Peach Fit. It's a manga series with an anime adaptation. There is a rumor in the I could not find anything to source this is true, that the BJDs came first. I don't know if I heard that just randomly from somebody or if it's an actual thing, but I've heard that. I couldn't find like a source that said that they came before the anime and the manga, but either way, they're very, very much intertwined. An iconic series that revolves around a collection of sentient living BJDs known as Resonations. The story follows the protagonist June, who becomes involved in a mysterious and supernatural battle with these dolls as they seek to reunite with their creator. You can watch it on Amazon Prime or Crunchyroll. You guys ready for that time? Anybody? Fantastia doll! The director is, I don't know if I pronounce this, Hisashi Sato. Okay. It's an anime with a manga spin-off. It follows Uzume Uno. I love it. Uzume Uno, and she uses cards. No, I to summon AI warriors known as Fantastia dolls to fight against Fantastia doll users. Uzume struggles to balance little friends and family all while fighting for her life. You can watch this one on Crunchyroll. I have not watched this one personally, and the reviews I heard about were conflicting, so, proceed at your own risk. Anyone know this one? Oh man, you got
Wait, hold on. Y'all know the anime convention. Y'all don't know this.
It's okay, there's a lot of anime out there. Yes.
Maya Gomez?
No, this one is Unbreakable Machine Doll. So part of the reason I wanted to address the anime doll overlap is how much they overlap in these animes. This is by Reiji Kaito. It's a manga series with an anime adaptation. It's set in an alternative world where puppetry and engineering are central to combat. The main character, Raishin Kakibane, uses his automaton, Yaya, as a humanoid creating like puppet in battles. You can watch this one on Amazon Prime. In case you guys need more to watch. Any guess on this one? Wow, we got some good stumpers on here.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. This is Dolls Front Line, Buttons and Dolls.
Oh!
Yeah.
It is actually originally a game with an anime adaptation. It's by Game Development team. It's also known as Girls Frontline in the original Chinese. Yes, the Chinese one. An anime adaptation of the popular, and the anime I think was done by a Japanese studio. It became really popular in Japan. Where am I going with this? BJD-like characters. These dolls are used as combat units, each with distinct appearances and personalities. You can watch on Funimation. Anybody?
Thank
you. We got a couple for a giant. 1, 2, 3.
We were just talking about it. We were wondering if you were going to come up with it.
Thank you. There's one in the back, one over here, two over here. Thank you, Subscribes Mary. Angelic Lair offers Glam. Okay, this one was currently controversial for 6 episodes. I love that. Maybe I should like it here.
It does look like it.
Yes, it's really cool. A manga series with an anime adaptation. I have not watched this in a long, long time. But seventh grader Misaki Suzuhara discovers battling dolls known as Angelic Lair when she first goes to Tokyo. Intrigued by the dolls, she soon finds herself immersed in tournaments and intrigue as she faces opponents and discovers secrets of the past. You can watch this one on Amazon Prime. I feel like there might have been some other places you can watch it too, but that's the one. All right, so we are at an anime convention. I felt like I had to touch base on some of the plethora. This is just a sampling of the plethora of collectible collaboration dolls. These are official anime dolls, BJDs released by companies mostly Volks and what was the other one? Ringdoll. Mostly Volks and Ringdoll, let's get done, have done these collaborations, but there are other companies. I can't find them again, but somebody did a collaboration with Dynasty Warriors, and I was like, oh, my money. But there are most of the dolls that are collaboration dolls. It's a very short window of time to get them, very expensive to get. And I don't think you can buy them blank. I think you have to buy the full set. There's not options. And I will say this, if you guys love Spy Family and Anya, she is currently available on Volks If you want Anya, you only have till the 27th of November to go try to get her. So just heads up, do it for me. My wallet does not want her, and I want her.
She's on a brand new body too.
Yes.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, smaller than a mini belt.
Oh my God, not this.
All right, creating your own doll, the art of shelling. Anime fans, and I know we've talked a little bit about this already, but I feel like because we're in this section, we gotta talk about shelling. And I have a shelled doll up here. I don't know if you recognize her, but I have a Marinette from Miraculous Ladybug. I am still working on finishing her full-set outfit. She just has her t-shirt right now and some other random clothes. But anime fans who also collect BJDs find ways to merge their interests, creating custom dolls that represent their favorite characters. This practice showcases the versatility of BJDs as a canvas for fan expressions. I mean, if you guys were at a convention, how many people here collect things like action figures? Yeah, okay? These are the ultimate action figures. Really, I mean, in so many respects. And your link may not be out there for you to buy, but you can make it. And I just think it's such an amazing thing to say, I love this character, I want this character on my shelf, and I can make it happen myself. Fan communities dedicated to both anime and BJD provide spaces for like-minded individuals to share their creations, experiences, and love for these groups.
We come to the conclusion, y'all. So here are all the resources if you want to take a look, if you want to learn more.
Feel free to take pictures if you want information.
There's a plethora of people on YouTube. This is just a small sampling of the ones that I've seen, that I follow, and they have good information. There are also the websites, BJD Life and Den of Angels for information, and there are our Facebook groups. So if you are in Michigan or from Michigan, we have 2 awesome groups in Michigan. And if you're from Ohio, they also have an awesome group from Ohio as well.
I did drive up here from Cincinnati.
That's great.
Yeah. Oh, also YouTube. Not only can you find these are some great channels for just info, and they give you everything. But I won't lie, I have a habit of putting on BJD unboxing videos in the background while I'm doing other things. There's some amazing unboxing, and that to me is the best way to find out if you want a doll. If you can find someone who's already bought it, go onto YouTube, find their unboxing, and you can watch them pull out that full set, and you're like, okay, I know I want it, or I know I don't want it.
And these are 2 Michigan groups. We have the Michigan Dollhouse and Michigan BJD.
The photo in the second one is fantastic. I just
That one right there.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
And again, if you're from the Ohio area, they have an awesome group in Ohio as well.
And obviously, we welcome people from Michigan into our Ohio BJD. We're not the same.
Any questions? The floor is open.
Yes.
Not just necessarily for you guys, but anyone in the room. Does anyone know a good but not ridiculously expensive artist who does commissions for like vinyl dolls? Because I painted my mini doll BJ myself, and he does not look good.
You know, yes.
I would say not a particular artist, but if you do join Den of Angels, their marketplace, there are people that you can commission to make the outfits or do a face up like a character. And I just did this recently too on Facebook in the the seller or commission group for the one BJD group. I can't think of Facebook. Yeah. But I just said that I wanted to make a Puss in Boots doll. And I had someone from France reach out to me, and she did it for a great price. And I just got the outfit, and it's awesome. So if you put up a looking for or wanted post in a group like that, you might have someone really cool reach out to you. So always try that.
Thank you. There's someone in Michigan. She's who I get most of mine done. Her name's Danny's Designer Dolls on Instagram.
She's Michigan raised.
And like doesn't look that far away.
Thank you. Yeah. And if you know somebody too, like those other kinds of face stuff, you can always ask them if they do vinyl, because again, artists aren't necessarily like vinyl folks. It's just Denim Angels. So I'm on Denim Angels, and they're wonderful people on there. They really are. And I'm glad the community is diversifying. So.
Any other questions, comments?
Yes. I'm gonna raise my hand again. One other term that I think is good to know too, if you go looking around the marketplace, is mini-me heads. Mini-me heads. I kind of got into that because I do a lot of, well, when I started making these, they were called Franken-Downs, but you know, companies where the head came from a different place in the body. And mini-me heads are sometimes abbreviated as MNM. I think, yeah. And there'll be like a sculpt of like a famous person or a character.
Yes. Okay,
and yeah, so, and then they're very limited, and but it's kind of fun. So if you're looking for a sculpt that looks like a specific character or person, you can plug into, you know, Denim Angels Marketplace, MNM heads, and see what comes up, and you know, you can find some really cool, unique, one-of-a-kind heads.
If you really need a Jack Sparrow who looks just like Johnny Depp.
Yeah, they're out there.
Which I sometimes feel a little awkward on behalf of the actors. Like, you know, someone's like looked at your face that much, they can sculpt it, but they are really, they're very impressive. Out of curiosity, how many people here have a BJD at home?
10.
So really, you didn't need this.
A, B, C, D?
We're just happy to see here.
Good. Well, we're happy, and that's part of the reason we're doing this. We really, I know that at least in Ohio BJD, the AOD community group, we've been saying we really want to see a BJD presence in the Midwest. Because I mean, you get to fly out to Dallas. I don't get to fly out to Dallas. And there are places with great adult conventions and opportunities for that, but we don't have that here. So we are looking to grow our community, make connections, and see if we can't start pooling some of this interest to maybe get something bigger going on. And like, we enjoy, yes.
Just have you thought of maybe putting together like an email list or something like that? Or
That's definitely a possibility. We can plan that today. But I have paper and a pen.
Yeah.
So we, between the two groups, we have been talking about figuring out if we can do, it's been put out a couple of places to see what kind of following we would get if we had some type of event here or in the geographical area, to see how many people we would actually get to show up. Because we don't, you know we love it, but we don't want to be like, oh, let's do something, and then we hear crickets out there because nobody showed up.
Starting small would probably be best.
Yes, definitely.
Something in a small venue.
Right.
Well,
And we
what's
may.
going on because she doesn't want to take me to Texas.
So, and it could be that it's just something as small as an intro panel, maybe a shorter intro panel, and then maybe one or two panels that are BJD related and anime related that aren't necessarily intro BJD related at another time. So, like, that's also another way we can start seeing, that would be probably a better way than just intro to BJDs, is to see how many people are actually already part of this community and just looking to get connected. So, yeah, I mean, an email list is a really great way to go.
Yes.
So I can have it. We have we got papers here. I always feel weird asking people for their email address. But, and I also don't know who we would want to reach out to see about.
How many people here belong to any of the BJD groups?
Okay, which ones do you belong to?
Michigan.
BJD. Okay.
Because I belong to a number of BJD groups, so if we want to put something together, I have no problem planning something and putting it out there to see if we can garner the interest for it, because I would love to put together something. And the ladies at Dallas Youmacon, they told me that if I was able put something together, they would help me make it successful. Since they've had a successful time, they would let me know how, they would give me guidance on how to make something successful. But we would definitely start small, one day events, getting together, doing some stuff, and just to see, just so we can all get together with people who will, of course, love their dogs.
And it would be best probably to do a regional thing, just so that we can pull in enough interest. Because I mean, there is a fair amount of interest in Ohio as well, and lucky for you guys, I'm mostly in Columbus and Cleveland. So it is. I feel like I'm sure that there's a big group in Indiana. I feel like I bet we could get.
There's a little bit. They're still trying
to pull it all together. That's fair. But I feel like if we could get a larger geographical area within the Midwest and start pulling in, we can get something started. You got a question in the back here?
There used to be like back when Outlook and Vandals was still restricted to like only, there used to be a Midwest specific floor called Dairyland BJD.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know how active or dead they are now, but that might be a good spot for them to reach out because it's a specifically Midwest center like Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan group.
Awesome. That's something I think I will look into too.
Yeah, because I remember there used to be before, you can't quote me because pandemic time when they could go.
It's another world.
Right. There used to be one in, I want to say St. Louis. Somewhere in that area they used to have one. And then they stopped that. And so that was the closest that we would get outside of going up to Canada.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I saw a hand.
Is this the first time you've done a panel like this at a convention? My second question is, have you considered going to Anime Midwest in Chicago?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, so
She
this
just
is,
wants to go to all the time.
so this is our second convention we've done.
And feedback is welcome.
And feedback is definitely welcome, and I didn't feel, I've already put in. So you might get your wish.
You'll have to pass out more candy. Did you really? Actually, I might be able to pass it for that one.
So it's, since we have so many people who are already dog lovers, who here after the panel, it's like now it's like, ooh, I didn't have a dog, but now I want one.
All right, so let's talk recaps. All right, so I'm about to become the most hated person in this room, and I accept that humbly. When I was in my early 20s, I didn't know any better. I bought a recast on eBay. Right now, that's the only doll I own because I haven't made the investment. Yes, you have convinced me that I'm going to make the real investment.
But she's precious to you.
But she is. So are you? I feel like there's a lot of hate in the community towards that, and I understand that. Why? But like, can you still be a part of the community if you have a recast?
So I would, if you don't mind, I'll address that first, if that's okay. For starters, everybody starts out not knowing what's going on in BJDs, and that is the most common story with recasts we encounter. Like, absolutely. When I went to go shop, like when I first went to go shopping for a BJD, I was in college and I had no idea what the price point is, which is why I was like, okay, well, I don't know what a recast is. I don't know how I would tell the difference if there was one, so I'm just gonna buy a Volks. And I didn't even end up buying a BJD. So, like, my story isn't exactly the same, but I understand that like, I want to buy this, I want to be a part of this, and I recognize that they're beautiful and it means something to me. And you went and you bought a doll and you didn't know, and it came in and she still means something to you. That doesn't make you a villain, that makes you a human. And that's what we all are. So, I would say definitely you're still part of the community. And I hate to have to say this, I would say, be careful where you post your pictures. Because some people are mean.
Yes,
I've just held off from posting online.
And
like,
I'm sorry,
I've tried
that
to
hurts
stay
because she's
patient.
pretty and you want to share her. And I'm sorry that you have to go through that.
Yeah, I have to say my very first one, my very, very first one. I don't know what it's. So I know it's a recast. And she is, hey, I still love her. She still sits it on my shelf at home. Unfortunately, I can't bring her out with everybody else, but she does still, she's very much loved. So, and that's before you know, but that's before I knew the differences between why you don't buy them.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, when I actually had some money because I was an adult. So what happened is after the gold stall, I said I was kind of jaded. I stepped away from BJD for a long time.
Yeah.
And I didn't have money anyway. So it wasn't until pandemic and all of my travel money, because that's my other hobby, right? And kimono travel. So I couldn't do travel, so all my travel money went to kimono, but then I found a BJD picture. It's like, oh wait, I have some money saved up for travel, so I can buy one. I went and was looking at recasts because they were less expensive. And then through Providence, it wasn't me, because trust me, I understand. The cost threshold is a barrier, and it's super frustrating, and I get it. And I realize that I am in a privileged position where I was able to buy a legitimate doll as my first doll. So I don't want to be a gatekeeper. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think anyone should ever be a gatekeeper. I think we should all be passionate, and we should all be educators. And like if you want to buy a legit doll, and that's something important to you, you choose what you prioritize. If you want to put some money away bit by bit, or do a layaway, or whatever, don't say goodbye to your doll, because that was, and that's part of your history. Don't we all have to acknowledge our history and where we came from to get to where we are today? So I hope that's encouraging. And I don't need to cut you off.
No, that's totally fine, because I was just gonna say that, there are, I'm never gonna fault anyone for having a recast, because everybody has their own story or whatever, stuff happens. And it is an expensive community to get into, but there are spots where, because she is something precious to you, or he, I don't know what gender your doll is, but there are spaces. Yeah, there are spaces where you can have a community of people who will understand what's going on, and a bit less judgmental and more accepting, and even helpful with resources. Because nobody likes it for people to get scammed. Sometimes that happens. And so it's just a nice, hey, this is a safe space.
So I found a really nice thing. It's BJD Haven.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's wonderful. I've never been able to be around people who are also interested in BJDs. And so I was curious what, if I was going to get drug out of the room. Just because, the way that some of these other groups look, it feels that way, where you couldn't be part of it unless you were really, so thank you, that's really helped me alleviate
I'm so glad you feel it, because I felt that same way at first too. I was I heard stories, I read the story, I'm like, oh gosh, no, because my daughter was like, why do you want to belong? I was like, because not every group is like that. And they're not all.
They're not. And I've got one here and then one here.
I just wanted to add, if anyone here is wow, this is fascinating, but I don't know if I, have the money to make that commitment right now, but oh, I really like the artistic element of it, or I want to, maybe dip my toes in the water and see if this is something I could be interested in. Yeah, I would highly recommend looking into doll customization hobby.
And that's how I got started.
Yes, that's something I was considering doing a panel about that next year possibly, but the point is you can, with that, a lot of times, you were saying, rescuing old dolls, literally go to Salvation Army, go to Goodwill, find a doll that looks like it's been loved to death, torn out hair, stains on the body, whatever, take it home, put some acetone on the body, fix it up. On the body, on the head. Or sorry, the head, not the body, backwards. But yeah, just fix it up. And if you really like that and you find yourself really, just entranced in it, it might help you figure out what kind of BJD you might want if that's something you're into. Or maybe you never want to go that far and buy something that expensive and you just want to, fix up old toys. Who knows? But yeah, that would be my advice.
Thank you.
Just a second.
No, I was just going to add in too, because I've been in this hobby for, I don't know how many years, over 10 years for sure. And it's a lot less gatekeepy than it used to be. Yeah. Because you would have all kinds of people that would gatekeep over certain types of dolls. Like I said, a lot of my collection is, I started off Frankendolling. And it's not called that anymore, but that's the term that was used a lot. And those dolls would be frowned upon. And now it's everybody does that. So, it's the community is so much more inclusive now and welcoming. So I would not be afraid to jump into it.
And that is actually another great way to go. Is there's so many groups out there that offer legit bodies and then legit heads as secondhand things, and you can hybrid your way to a really nice doll.
Okay, so on that. Oh, this one right here. She has a a doll family H head.
Yeah.
And a pig's wood body. I had to remember which one it was. And I did happen to be a part of the group. And the girl, she does that. She pieces the dolls together. This is a 1/3 doll. She sold me the doll body for $50. So you can sometimes secondhand find some people who are just wanting to thin their collection out. Because at times, even me, you buy too much and you're like, yeah, I don't love you as much as I used to. So, and you can definitely secondhand find some good things. Just like with this one, this is the resin sole. She was $88. So you can get a doll, but get your feet in the door with a legit doll and not have to pay.
And $88 is cheaper than recast.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's still cheaper than a recast. So yeah.
Check those Alice's collection sales too.
Yep.
I've gotten a full doll for like under $100 before there.
Wow. So we have 8 minutes, before we do need to start tearing down, because ours takes a minute to tear down. So we have.
Oh, yeah, we got more than 8 minutes.
We do?
Yes.
We do.
We're here till 7. That's why I'm still talking. We're still
Sorry.
talking. And there are also a lot of different. Everybody thinks about the ball jointed dolls just being Asian BJD dolls, but there are coming up a whole lot of smaller doll makers that are doing good things. Just like this doll right here is a Yummy Sweets. I follow her artist on Instagram, and her dolls are awesome. And there's another, my baby here, I found her secondhand. She is a good bro. And I've heard a lot of things about this. Then Evangeline made me kind of mad with the good bro.
Oh, did they really?
Because they said she was off topic.
Oh, why?
Because they said that she was made more to be a fashion doll than.
Even though she's a ball jointed doll.
Do the history, you look it up. I was like,
I believe
what?
you.
So now she does make dolls that look similar to fashion dolls, but she also makes BJD dolls as well.
Interesting.
So, yes. So there are a lot of options for dolls. Don't think that it has to be a certain one. It's what you want your doll to look like, the look that you're going for, like you said, the character you may be going for. You can definitely get it and get it within a reasonable price, because I'm sorry, adulting takes a lot of money. And so I know we all don't have a lot of money to spend. So I can personally say, there's not a doll on this table of mine that costs more than $300. So you can do it without having to spend a lot of money.
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, this might not be your aesthetic. Blind boxes might not be your way to go. But if you do want to dip your toes in it, like, feel free to. Like, the blind boxes are a great, fun way to get started. My friend Abby here. That's how I direct her to community. So, thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you for the great panel.
Thank you. Yeah. So, and as Jeanette said, we have time. So please come up, take a look at the dolls, and pictures of the dolls.
If y'all customize, there's some eyes up here as well, young as well.
Honestly, he knows No. I just came in and if you have questions, and then yeah, what did you want to look at? Oh, God. Really? She is. So she is a hybrid. This is my Baroness. Okay. Her head is a white dog, and the body